to his 5th or 6th generation that he carried this business down. And there's a restaurant that sits on the site where his distillery was that I worked in years ago. So seeing that, I kept asking myself, if the fields are going away and the distilleries are going away, where am I going to get oil to supply my people? And it's really interesting, as the distilleries have disappeared and the fields have disappeared and the oils have decreased in volume, more and more companies have evolved that are selling more oils than we had 25 years ago, and there's 80% less. Somehow, you know, if I could get my accounting department to run numbers like that, we'd be in a great shape. But it just doesn't happen. So that's why I invest in farms and the distilleries, so you folks will never have to question where your oils are coming from. And will you have them next week, next year, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And I'll just give you a little sample. I sat with my team in September and I started talking to them about the future of Young Living and where I expect it to go, and what I see, and what I need. And to give you one example, we were meeting with Jean-Noel and Nicholas. Everybody knows Jean-Noel and Nicholas from the farm in France, okay? We're grateful that they flew in to be with us. But this year, we're at 50 tons of lavender oil production in the demand for Young Living, all right? Well, that constitutes about 3,500 acres of lavender, or about right around there, isn't it, Jean? About 3,500 acres of lavender to meet that need for this coming season, all right? In 5 years, with the projections that I have set for Young Living, we're going to need 25,000 acres of lavender to meet our demand. Unless I buy from Procter & Gamble. So if you just take that one oil and understand the growth from 3,500 acres to 25,000 acres, and then you spread that across the board of all the oils that Young Living sells, all that you sell, and you wonder why you're out of stock on some things, it's your fault.
Yeah.
What a wonderful problem to have, but you know, at the same time, when you understand it takes 3 years to grow lavender, and it takes 5 years before it really gets into mature production, I have to project my fields out 5 years from now. So if I've got to have 25,000 acres in 5 years, that means we have to start planting tomorrow. So you all thought you were coming here to hear about other problems. I'm going to tell you where the real problems are. You're here so I can recruit you to start planting tomorrow. Okay, so anyway, it is a big challenge for us. But that's my job, and I love the challenges. And we're going to meet those challenges, and everything is in the works for it. And the difference, you know, I didn't used to take my accountant with me when I traveled because I didn't want to be bothered with, you know, being reminded of all the numbers. But it's so refreshing because I have a new accountant now. And how many have met Janae? Janae, stand up. Janae is our new CFO for Young Living. And now she travels with me to say, yes, Gary, you can buy that farm. Yes, Gary, you can buy that distillery. So it's really wonderful to have her with us. Okay, with all of that, we know your problems. And I have engaged my entire executive team from back home to address your problems and your concerns. Now, I've had the opportunity to build a company to over $1 billion in the U.S. I know what it takes. And I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. Maybe not mistakes, but unproductive choices. Okay? Things that could have been done better had I had the information. But we make decisions based on information that we have at hand. And sometimes the information is not exactly correct. But folks, I share this with you for this reason. If you agree, and you will make the commitment with me, we will take Europe to $1 billion. Only one person wants to. I know, it was just too much shock for the rest of us. Because here's the thing, I did it in the U.S. with 350,000 people. You know, and gringos, they don't really, you know, take to the oils. You know, it takes a while to convince them. The Americans, you know, they'd rather eat candy and ice cream. But you folks here in Europe, you know what oils are. You know the value. I don't have to convince you, right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier to market here than back home. I know what we can do. I know it. I've known it for a long time, and I feel it. And that's why 2 years ago I said, I'm going to invest in Europe, and I'm going to take you there. And I started the process. I committed to be in Europe more often. 2 years ago I was. This past year, some things happened, and that kind of slowed me down a little bit. And the truth of the matter is I'm not supposed to be here. But I ditched Mary in Houston and got on another flight while she was in the bathroom. But anyway, I really wanted to be here. For two reasons. One, because you all put your faith and trust in me. And I didn't just want to send a note or a message. I want you to know what I'm committed to do is real. But we can't do it by ourselves. We've got to have your help. We've got to have your support. We've got to have your trust. And I'm not here with my team to tell you that we're going to do this and this and this, and then we're just going to go home and say, make the best of it. No. We're here. My whole team is here. And they've been here since last Monday, working on the problems, finding solutions for the problems. We've been since yesterday, all day yesterday, all day today, sitting in there. And you know, Joy never let us out of that room to even eat. He said, you guys can come out when you've got it figured out. Okay? And it's been quite a challenge, and you know, I'm sitting there and I can hear stomachs rumbling and growling, you know, but no way, we're not getting out of there till we got the solutions. And so it was quite motivating because we got to come up with a whole lot of solutions today. Yesterday he fed us and he realized that was a mistake, so he didn't feed us today. We come up with solutions. But what I also want to say is express my appreciation for Joy. He didn't have to come here and take over this mess, you know, but he did because of his love of Young Living and his love of all of you. But Joy was smarter than me because he put some fine print in the dotted line on his contract that he would only take it on for a year. And then he was going home where he could have and peace and anyway, but he's got children that are older and, you know, got commitments in school, and so we were happy that he would do that, because as you know, we were in a situation that I created last year. And why did I create it? Because of the pain that was going through the ranks with bad leadership, and for me it was bad leadership. We're better not to have it, and I think you'd all agree. So we made those shifts, but it did really create a lot of trauma back home and put a lot of pressure on a lot of folks, and Joey stepped in and picked up those pieces so we could keep operating and keep going forward. And then we compounded all that by moving from Kim Bolton to here. We might say the timing wasn't the best, but is there a right time to do something like that? 2 years, a year down the road from now, if we would have made the same move, it could have been a bigger mess because we'd been bigger. And I looked at the whole thing and I told Jared, I think it was 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, sell Kim Bolton, we got to get out or we're never going to grow. We have to have better skills, we got to have more employees, we got to have employees that's got language, the myriad of things if we want to grow. If we want to just stay a little company of a few $1 million, yeah, we can stay in Kim Bolton and do that, but we cannot grow to $1 billion or more in Kim Bolton. And so those decisions were made. And it was a compounded effect that it has happened with all the stuff. We don't need to go back and chew up all of that and rehash it because it's not going to do us a bit of good except give us indigestion. However, I'd sell more Digize. Anyway, so what I want to do today is I've asked each one of my department heads that have been working on these issues, your payment problems, there's one little problem we'll probably talk a little bit about called out of stock. But we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about communication. We have basically 5, I just narrowed it down to 5 major topics that we're going to cover. But we're not just going to talk about it. You're going to see solutions. And some of those solutions started yesterday, going into place and being implemented. And it's going to take a little time for you to feel the whole impact of the shift, but we've got some absolute, how about this, if we give you some absolute guarantees today? Could you live with that?
Yes.
You sure?
Yeah.
All right, because that's what we want, and there'll be more changes and additions coming along. I've got some new people I want to introduce you to that I'm really excited about. And so I think what we will do now is we'll just jump in. We're going to just present to you what we're working on to make your life better.